you guys? We are back home and I could not be happier. And it's time to get my life together. Do a little bit of a fall reset. As you guys know, I've taken a break from the monthly resets. I just feel like they're not really serving me in this season of life, and the monthly goals just feel a bit much. And so I've been really enjoying the seasonal resets. I think it's exactly what I need today. It's Monday. I got home from my work trip out east to St. John's on Saturday night, and I took yesterday to just like completely chill, veg out. I just kind of like unpacked and did laundry, but otherwise I rotated from sitting in this chair to on the couch to in the bed to outside on the hammock. I had a complete rest day. It was very much needed, and now we're here. Now it's about 11:30, a little bit of a later start than I'd like to, but that's okay. I had a really nice slow morning, spent some time outside with the dogs, did a little eye patch, did a little self-care, made a coffee, and then read a bunch of my book. I'm currently reading Phantasma and I am loving it so much. I'll get into it probably in another vlog just because I don't want this to be crazy long, and I'm definitely in a chatty mood, but I am absolutely loving it. It is the perfect fall read. I have not been in the best mental place for the last like week or so. Okay, I'm not gonna cry. And that is just the thing about having high functioning depression and anxiety and just mental health, is that everything could be going totally fine in your life and you can still be sad for no reason. I know it's important to talk about, but I also don't want to talk about it because I just feel like, not that I have nothing to complain about, but like I feel like even though I got to work with the Disney Parks team again and go to Disneyland and then go to our best friend's wedding and go out east on a work trip and run a conference that I put together, I was just in a really bad place mentally in the last week, and I'm slowly feeling better. I think being home obviously really helps. Everything that we've done in the last 2 weeks is like so amazing and I'm so grateful, but I just still was so sad. And I know that you can feel multiple feelings at once, but I've just been really struggling, and I think it was just like one thing on top of another. Work trip was like the first trip that I like solo trip I'd taken by myself that not that I'm not ever homesick, but I was like crying myself to sleep every night because I just wanted to be home. I think having like our trip and then being home for a few days and then having the conference was just too much for me, and sometimes that's just the way life goes, right? Like I had no choice. We weren't gonna miss our best friend's wedding and I had to go do this conference that I was running. I was just really homesick, and I think I was already not in a good place mentally when we came home from the wedding. It's just hard. Obviously Brianna and I don't get to see each other a ton, and her and Corey's wedding day was absolutely perfect. Brianna and I have seen each other a lot this year, considering like we have a long distance friendship. We've seen each other 4 times, and it's obviously been a big year for both of us getting married, but every other time, oh my god, I'm gonna cry. Every other time we've left each other this year, we've had like something else planned, and I think this is the first time we don't have like concrete plans to see each other next. So anyways, people that are new here are probably like, girl, are you okay? But we're like just a very chatty, raw, real time around here. I always like it to feel like we're on FaceTime, hanging out with a friend, and I just thought that I owed you guys kind of like this is where I've been, this is how I've been feeling for the last week, because I always say this, as much as it's fall, I love creating fall content. I feel like my most me in the autumn season. I'm still a real person that struggles and has to live real life during the fall. Like I think just like feeling so sad coming home from the wedding and then having to leave right away for a work trip, I just wanted to be home. Like whenever I am not in a good spot mentally, I just want to be home with my little family, and I couldn't, and that was really tough. So that's kind of that, but I'm feeling a little bit better now. I'm ready to just kind of like slowly ease myself back into routine and just kind of get my life together in like a very gentle way. It's not gonna like be very go or anything. So here's what I want to do in this video. I have a lot of books that need to be put away. I need to do a little tidy up of the library just because I was filming a bunch before we left for California and I haven't really put anything away. I'd like to go over the books I read in September because I feel like I read a ton that would be great for spooky season. Go over the books coming out in October, new releases. And then I think I'm in a place where I want to just set a few monthly goals, nothing crazy. I'm sure there's going to be monthly reset videos in the future because there's going to be some months where I feel like I need to like reset my life. But for right now, I'm really enjoying the seasonal resets. It just feels more attainable to me. I'm gonna do that. I gotta pick up like dog food, and then I'd love to do some fall baking. We'll kind of just see what we get up to today. It's very much like a no pressure, just go with the flow. But I know that because I'm jumping into the work week tomorrow, and if you guys can tell by my budget videos, the last few months I've been pretty much working full-time hours. Matt had the house all cleaned up for me when I got home. He got groceries and everything, but I just need to tidy up the library and my books and just get everything in place for a new work week. I think that will feel really, really nice, and today just feels like the perfect day to do it because I'm off because I had to work Saturday at the conference. So I have today off in lieu of, because I didn't want overtime. It just gets taxed so high that you don't even really notice you have overtime, so I'd rather just take a day off in lieu. Let's spend a cozy fall day getting our life together. I can't wait, honestly. I really need this. That's ready for the work week. Just got myself ready for the day a little bit. It's kind of like a weird temperature here. It's like 18 degrees, so like high 60s. So I'm wearing sweat shorts, but I need like a sweater or like a long sleeve in the morning. So I'm just wearing this cute little plaid flannel. It's like very fall coated to me, the colors in it, and it's just like nice and warm and oversized and comfy. And I also made myself a nice hot cup of tea because I wanted, once again, to be like nice and warm, but I wanted to sit down and talk through some of the goals that I set for October. They're very minimal. They're nothing big. They're nothing overly ambitious. And I feel like after you've taken a break from goal setting, which first off, taking breaks from setting goals, I think is so important to do from time to time to allow ourselves time to like regroup, reframe, see what goals we want to keep, see what goals we want to change, and also just like regain that motivation back. I find taking a break a few times a year, especially if I have like bigger yearly goals to achieve, just can really help me kind of regroup, refocus, reframe. How many like rewords can I use? I just feel really good going into October now, but I never want to throw too many goals on myself. I really want to make it attainable for me and also set myself up for success. So tried to stick with one goal per category, and if I couldn't come up with a goal in said category, that was totally okay. Like I didn't have to sit there and think for hours and hours and hours just to include a goal in that category. So first one in health and wellness is to just get back into some sort of routine. That includes my morning routine, my nighttime routine, and then especially my daytime routine. I feel like the dogs and I are on a really good schedule when I work from home, and so I just want to ease back into that. I feel like especially when we come back from a trip, I feel like my eating habits are kind of all over the place, and I just want to, you know, get back on my water intake, steps, taking the dogs for walks, and filling my body up with like nutrients, getting that protein in. I feel like especially on vacation, that's not something that I really do well. So I feel like especially when we come back from a trip, I'm just kind of all over the place. My water intake isn't the best. And while we move a lot on vacation and we walk a lot, I just want to get back into routine here. Getting back into those routines, which I think is in itself a bigger goal, which is why I didn't want to set a ton of other goals. Next is get back to being one video ahead, which is so helpful for me as a creator, especially on YouTube, with working a corporate job and being back to almost like full-time 9 to 5 hours depending on the week. What I mean by that is like this video right now I'm filming is gonna go up tomorrow, which means I have to edit it tonight and then upload it tomorrow. But I try to be one video ahead, which in an ideal world would mean that this video is already ready to go, and instead of filming this, I would be filming my next video. It just kind of helps me keep a bit of a buffer when it comes to videos and never really falling behind. In House and Home, I have Start My Office Makeover. I talked about this a few vlogs ago, how I sold everything in my office besides my desk, and well, I did sell my iMac, and I'm starting fresh in there. It's not a space that we really ever took the time to put any effort or decorate when we first moved in because we had other priorities, of course. But I've realized really quickly that if my office is not like a very cozy, welcoming space, I just never want to work into it. And so now I have the really bad habit of working from our dining room table, which is also not a good habit. So I want to just take some time this month to kind of revamp my office plan. I can put the mood board up on the screen for you guys. I used a lot of nursery inspiration photos. We're obviously not having a kid anytime soon, but I find that those are the best. The girlies that are putting together nursery mood boards know what they're doing with design and style, and I just take a lot of inspiration from like curtains, the art, the wood tones, and everything that they do, and I really like honestly love vintage like nursery mood boards because it's kind of the vibe I'm going for my office. So of course I will vlog and take you guys along for the office makeover, and there will be like a reel on TikTok as well. Personal, I do research on Kobo models. If you've been following me for a while, you know I actually used to have a Kobo. So in Canada, Kindles are not compatible with the library. You have to have a Kobo, which is another big brand of e-readers. I'm sure they have them in the States, but I feel like here in Australia, they're really big because you can't use Kindle with your library. And for a while, I was buying US library cards. Like some libraries will let you buy like a foreign library card and you can use that to take out books and read them on your Kindle. But a lot of libraries have recently stopped doing that, which is totally fair, right? Like people in that city should have access to that library card first. And like I mentioned, I used to have a Kobo a few years ago because I was getting tired of, you know, buying ebooks and all this stuff. However, at the time we lived in a big city and the wait for ebooks was like 20, 30 weeks long. It was insane. I maybe used my Kobo once or twice in the like year that I had it because there was never any books available that I wanted to read from the library. So I ended up selling it just because I feel like the library system we had at the time, like I wasn't well utilizing the Kobo and I wanted it to go to a good home. You guys know we live in a small town and our library system has been amazing. I typically take out physical copies of books since, once again, don't have a Kobo anymore, can't use the ebooks with the library. I'm sure people can relate, but I have been absolutely appalled at the price of Kindle books lately. And to be totally transparent with you guys, like I write off all the books that I read. They're a business expense. My accountant and I have come to that agreement. It should be because I review and discuss and make book content on here. So that's why you guys don't see it on the personal side of my budget. But most new release Kindle books nowadays are going for like 16, 17, 18, even I've seen some for $20 Canadian, which is absolutely outrageous. That is basically the price of a paperback. I just have found myself really icked out by Amazon book prices and Kindle book prices. I was talking about how I was considering getting a Kobo again, and he was like, honestly, that's probably a smart decision because obviously there's authors I want to support and buy their books when they come out, but I tend to buy the physical copy of it. And our library here is so great that maybe max there's like 2 people waiting for like a new release book, so I would get access to books pretty quickly. I feel like I would just save a lot of money because as much as it is a write-off and a business expense, there are other things I'd rather be spending. You know, let's say I bought 5 ebooks in a month, that's $100. I'd way rather put that $100 towards trip or, you know, paying our internet bill or something. Like I just think the price has gotten outrageous. So I really want to take my time, do some research on the different models that are out there. I used to have a Clara 2E or something. It was like kind of like the same size as a Kindle, like Paperwhite. But now I have a Kindle Oasis, so I want to just do some research and see what Kobo model is similar. I also know that they do refurbished ones, which is how I'm going to buy it because I just don't want to buy another new e-reader. I will keep my Kindle, of course, because I have Kindle Unlimited and the Amazon book deals are great on there. But I just think that I would be able to save a lot of money by using the library and the ebook service with a Kobo. I'm making a promise to myself that I'm going to do research before just like impulsively buying one. And those are my October goals. Like I said, I wanted to keep them super simple just because I feel like I really want to focus on getting back into routine. And then of course, starting another home project. We're sitting here in the library and I have the books in front of me. Let's jump into the books I read in September, my reading stats, and then all the new releases that are coming out in October because there are so many of them. So I'm going to pop up my fall TBR and my progress so far. Honestly, 2 books to some might not be great, but for me that's amazing because I am a mood reader and I never really read off of TBRs anyways. So I'm quite proud of myself with that. And then 3 of these I'm currently reading because I have about 600,000 books on a go as a mood reader. I'm definitely not going to get to all of these, but pretty proud of myself. So let's go over quickly all the books that I read in September. We'll go over my October new releases that are coming out. And then I think I want to do some baking and just like relax for a bit. It's 2, Matt will be home around 5. I really just like want to chill and relax. And then after this, I need to tidy up the library. It's like a big reset step for me. First book I read this month was Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. I don't know how you pronounce it. I ended up giving this 4 stars. Pretty short read too. I think it's perfect for fall. It was 254 pages. This follows our main character Camille. She has just gotten out of the psych hospital from a stay and she is a newspaper like journalist or reporter, and she heads back to her hometown. 2 like teen girls were recently murdered. She's facing her own demons while she's there, like with family, and also trying to solve who killed these girls. I was so impressed with this as a debut novel. It really gives dark psychological thriller vibes. So I feel like if you loved anything by Karen Slaughter, you'd absolutely love this. I really love psychological thrillers that have like really raw, honestly like effed up characters that are really real, very fleshed out. I feel like with a lot of thrillers, the main characters are very like superficial and don't have much depth to them. But every character in this book was fucked up in their own way, and they had their own demons to deal with, and they were very real and raw, which I really appreciated. The only reason it's not a 5-star read for me is I just felt like the middle felt a little bit flat. I wrote down there were moments where the plot was backtracking, ironically almost too long, even though it was only 252 pages. But overall, great read for spooky season, especially since it is a bit of a shorter book. I feel like I read most books on my Kindle this month. Then I read Haunt Sweet Home by Sarah Pinsker. I ended up giving this 3 stars. This is a novella. It follows our main character who gets a job as a production assistant on the set of like a horror reality TV show where they go to these supposed haunted houses. Their job is to kind of spook people into making their houses seem more haunted than they are. And I really enjoyed the premise of this book. I think it would be something that would be so good as a limited series or a TV show. Like just the way it was written, I was like, wow, I can picture this as a TV show. However, I know that not all novellas have plots. Some of them are just vibes only, but this just felt like it had no purpose to it. Like the execution felt really flat, and there was not really any character development, and there also wasn't really any plot development. It was a really quick, easy read, 176 pages. Once again, if you can take this up from the library, a good little spooky season read that leans more comedy than horror. Then we have Death at Morning House by Maureen Johnson, which I loved. I gave 4 stars. I loved the Truly Devious series, so I kind of had high hopes for this, and this definitely exceeded them. This follows our main character Marlo, and over the summer she heads up to the Thousand Islands, which I think I loved it too because it's near us. And she's working as a guide at Morning House, which was this house in the 20s that really rich family lived in. The dad was a doctor, but they were really into eugenics, and the book is told in a past present timeline following that family in the 1920s when tragedy hits, and also in present time as Marlo and her friends at Summer House are trying to uncover what really happened back in the 1920s. And Maureen Johnson just does such a great job of capturing your interest and making everything interesting for the entire book. For a YA mystery, this was so good. I listened to the audiobook for this, and then I also read it from the library, and I really, really enjoyed the audiobook, so I highly recommend it. And it has me really hopeful that it's going to turn into a new series, but definitely recommend reading this. It's such a good transitional book from summer to fall because it takes place kind of in the late summer. So great to read in like August or September. Okay, then next I read Spookily Yours by Jennifer Chipman, which is the first book in the Witches of Pleasant Grove series. It's on Kindle Unlimited, and it is the perfect Halloween romance read. It's a novella. Look at the cover of that. Tell me that's not the most stunning thing you've ever seen. And it's honestly pretty spicy. Like, I really enjoyed this. I feel like if you really like fated mates, forced proximity, cozy fall vibes, and a witch demon trope, you would absolutely love this. I honestly think, now that I'm thinking about it, it's more of like a 5-star vibes book. This follows our main character Willow, and she is a witch living in a small cozy fall town, like think Gilmore Girls, and she decides to adopt this black cat who is named Demon. Turns out there's an actual demon trapped in the body of the cat named Demon, and he basically needs her help to break his curse. The next book actually just came out, so I'm really excited to read that. I loved the side characters in this, which doesn't happen often for me. I feel like I'm like a main character girly, and I don't always love Fated Mate or Insta Love, but it seemed to work really well in this. So I had so much fun reading it. Highly, highly recommend if you're looking for like a cozy fall romance. Okay, then I read You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight, which I ended up giving 4 stars. I was clearly in like a YA thriller mystery mood. The audiobook for this is amazing as well, but this follows Charity, and Charity works at Camp Mirror Lake, which is an overnight camping spot where they have this like full contact horror game. They filmed this horror movie in like the 80s here, and now people can pay to come here and they will like reenact the story. And Charity works as a final girl, which if you watch horror movies, like camping horror movies, you'd know what a final girl is. One night when they're playing one of their last games of the season, some of her coworkers actually go missing, and she realizes that she's gonna end up being like a real final girl, and there's like a real horror situation going, like they're not acting it out. And it was so fun. This author is definitely going to be on my radar from now on because she just propels you forward and forward with all this mystery and tension, and I just honestly could not put the book down. I also think the author tackled trauma and relationships really, really well in like a very real way. I feel like if you don't want something super spooky, a YA horror or thriller book like this would be perfect. Then I read Nightmare of a Trip. I came across this at a bookstore when we were in New Haven in Connecticut. I ended up giving this 3 stars. This follows our main character Lee, and her and her family are headed out on this like road trip to Orlando to what is like a fictional version of Disney World. I would kind of describe it as like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation meets like horror ghost haunting edition. Once again, another great horror comedy book if you don't like super spooky things. I'd say it was more of like a spooky ghost story than a horror book, and I really loved the premise of this. However, the ghost storyline didn't really have as much impact and payoff at the end as it should have. I feel like the haunting just didn't really have a true purpose to it. Honestly, this was just so fun. It just wasn't like super memorable for me, which is why it's not rated higher. Lastly, I read Graveyard Shift by ML Rio. This was one of my most anticipated reads this fall, even though I've never read any of the author's other works. It was described as What Moves the Dead meets Scooby-Doo, and y'all know we love Scooby-Doo around here, and I love T. Kingfisher. So I was pretty excited about it. I ended up giving it 3 stars. I feel like I just read so many short books this month that I can't give them a higher rating because I just kind of was like, oh, like this was good, but it was nothing memorable. This follows a group of 5 friends who meet at midnight in this churchyard on a university campus every night because they're all insomniacs. However, one night when they all meet up, they realize that there is like a mysterious grave that's been dug up and is open, and they're trying to kind of solve why this grave was done up. I feel like I just never connected to any of the characters and there was just no depth to it. Once again, could just be because it's a novella. I have to say I was pretty disappointed with the ending because I feel like the big question in the book went totally unanswered, and it was kind of the whole plot around the book, and I was like, oh, there's gotta be something else. And then the book was done and I was like, wait, what? Someone who's never read any other ML Rio books fell in love with the author's writing and just how creepy, atmospheric, prosy it was. It was so top notch. I definitely want to read If We Were Villains Now. It was suspenseful. It was such great imagery. I definitely really love the author and want to read more of their work. However, I just didn't feel like the story had a purpose, if that makes sense. So those are all the books that I read in September. Now let's talk about all the October new releases because there are so many. Starting off strong with the day you're watching this, October 1st, we have The Wild Huntress by Emily Lloyd Jones, which I am so excited for because I talked about the Bone Houses in my romanticizing fall video, and I feel like no one ever talks about that book. This is a standalone fantasy book that takes place in the same world, and she also has another book called The Drowned Woods, and it's about a monster hunting girl who teams up with a prince to win the wild hunt. I guess if you participate in the wild hunt, you're not allowed to talk about it after, so no one has any idea on how it works or how high the stakes are. The book, I believe, follows 3 main characters as they go through the wild hunt. We have Impractical Magic by Emily Grimoire, where this is said to be for fans of Gilmore Girls and Charmed, a fun autumnal read with witches and cozy small town vibes. This is about our main character, Scarlett, and she is summoned by her family to help her mom's cursed inn, I guess, and then her ex-boyfriend is the inn's handyman. Cozy fall read if you're not into like the thriller fantasy world. We have Fang Fiction by Kate Stayman London. This is considered Twilight meets Buffy fan fiction, and it follows our main character Tess, who just dropped out of grad school and discovers that the world in her favorite vampire books is real, and so she's sent in to rescue the hot villain apparently. I've heard this has a lot of pop culture references, which is super hit or miss for a lot of people. So just a warning, just a heads up. I'm not a huge fan of the pop culture references. However, I definitely still want to read it. This is a good case of like, I'm not sure if I'm going to love it. So I'd rather get it through the library than buy it on my Kindle for probably like 18, 19 bucks. And we have I'll Be Waiting by Kelly Armstrong, which is a supernatural horror book that involves haunted houses, seances, lost loved ones. This is a supernatural horror book that follows our main character, Nicola, and she was recently widowed and decides to go to her widowed husband's family home to meet a medium who might be able to contact him, and then I guess the house comes alive. So I can't believe these are all on October 1st. Like, October is gonna be such a good reading month. Lastly, we have The House at Watch Hill by Karen Monning. This is about a young woman named Zoe who is grieving the loss of her mother, and so she moves to Divinity, Louisiana, where she inherits a large fortune and a gothic mansion full of mysteries and secrets, and meets a sexy Scottish groundskeeper. Sign me up. Then on October 8th, we have the second book in the Grimstone series by Sophie Lark. Sophie Lark is one of my favorite authors. This series is like a gothic romantic thriller series. The second book is Monarch, and this is about Elena, who is a young woman who she marries because her visa is going to expire, and apparently they live in this like creepy haunted hotel. I know, that's all I know. Sounds great. Then we have A Dark and Secret Magic by Wallace Kinney. This is a Hades and Persephone retelling in the style of Practical Magic. Are you kidding me? This follows our main character, Katie, who is a hedge witch, and she lives on her family's estate, and she's fixing up one of the cottages on the land to live in. And then this necromancer named Matthew comes to town. It literally says, this book is full of cuddly black cats, witch covens, cozy northeastern small towns, herbal remedies, pumpkin carvings, Halloween traditions, and old mansions. This is probably one of my most anticipated reads of October. Then we also have The Last One at the Wedding by Jason Rekulak, who wrote Hidden Pictures. I didn't write descriptions down for all of these, which, sorry guys, this would have been so long. And then also This Cursed House by Del Sandine. Then on October 15th, we have Sorcery and Small Magics, which is the first book in a new trilogy called the Wilder Songs trilogy. We also have American Rapture by CJ Lead, which I am so excited about. This is about Sophie. She grows up in like a super ultra conservative family. Very sheltered, doesn't really know what's going on in the real world. And this new pandemic hits the US and she kind of has to face it. And it's very like dystopian, apocalyptic, found family, final girl vibes. Like that's a good switch up from like the horror, dark academia, gothic romance books. If I Stop Haunting You by Colby Wilkins, which is an enemies to lovers romance where two feuding writers end up on a writing retreat in a haunted castle in Scotland. Sign me up. And then lastly, on October 29th, we have The Blue Hour by Paula Hawkins. So October is going to be a stacked reading month. I'm also probably forgetting other ones as well, but these are just the ones that are kind of more like spooky season. So many good books coming out. I cannot wait to read as many of them as I can. Now's the time where I have to take all the books that I talked about. Typically I have more physical books to talk about. Like I usually have a mix of like my own books and library books, Kindle books, but I only had 2 physical books this month. So not many, but typically what I'll do is I'll sort out anything under a 3-star I will donate, put in like a little free library around here. If it's a library book, I will return it. And then if it's a book I'm keeping, I'll put it back up on the shelf. Since I filmed that romanticizing fall video, I gave book recommendations, and then I was also filming some content for Indigo over on TikTok. I have a lot of books that need to be put back in their place. However, we have run into the problem where the home library is full. We need to start getting creative with where we put books. I think we're gonna have to get some sort of like floating shelf in here or something for the books. So I think I'm gonna put some ambiance music on the TV and just tidy up the library and get that over with before we do some like baking and relaxing for the rest of the afternoon. Let's tidy up this library. I think I'll feel so much better after. As you guys saw, we just ran to the grocery store super quick. I did mention that Matt did groceries and he did, but he forgot to get dog food, which is, we always do that. We always like forget the main thing that we go for. So anyways, I told him I would go because I wanted to pick up some things to do some fall baking. I do not bake. If you watch my videos, you would know that I'm not the best baker and I typically only make things from boxes or mixes. And so I saw a TikTok that you can make pumpkin loaf using spiced cake mix and then also just like pure pumpkin. These two together, pop it in the oven and you're good to go. So of course we're gonna try it out. I will be the test subject and I really hope it turns out. I should have bought some walnuts though. Now that I'm looking at the top of this, that looks so good. And then they finally had pumpkins out. They weren't out before we left for California, so I was really excited. I picked up 2 little pie pumpkins because they were on sale. And I'm gonna wait and go to maybe Walmart later this week to get full-size pumpkins because their full-size pumpkins were like $8, which I think is a little steep. I know groceries are expensive right now, but that seems a little steep. I feel like I could find them cheaper at like Walmart or Food Basics. So I'm gonna wait on those, but I love a little pie pumpkin. Then we can do some fall baking and just kind of enjoy the rest of the night. I think that kind of sounds nice.